And we're back once again, only on It's Last Call. Last Call to the Alcohol, only on the Last Call Podcast.com. And joining me here once again, well, after every big week of fights and every week of coming up, we got to have him on the show because he's the hottest MMA free agent, reporter, editor, podcaster, trash talker in the world. And, well, he has a lot to say. I give you once again the man, the myth, the legend. I give you it is Marcel Dorff. So, Marcel, let's start off here with wow, this was a statement. Carlos Prates at UFC Perth knocked out Jack Maddalena, Maddalena, Della Maddalena, and I'm gonna say that three times fast. I didn't see this coming. I thought Prates could win. I didn't think he would dominate. Damn, that's what he did.
It was crazy. I picked Della Maddalena before the fight, and I was like, he's more technical, so I'm going with him. But Pratas pretty much didn't give him a chance, man. He blasted him with knees, with low kicks, with calf kicks. Um, it was super one-sided. It was an amazing performance by Carlos Pratas, and yeah, very impressed by what he showed. Actually crazy, you know. Great win for him, which put him right into title contention probably. But yeah, this was a big win for him.
I've never seen Jack get manhandled that badly. Even when against Makachev, he still was like semi-competitive, I guess. This was just from round one to the second round, he could do anything. I mean, he got two takedowns, then Pragas got right back up and just went to basically obliterating his right leg, busting him up, body, knee, head. I mean, call me crazy now because this sounds crazy, but Carlos Prates, dare I say, beat Islam Makhachev.
I think it's a complete different fight because Islam is going to use heavy grappling in Carlos. I don't think he will try to stand and strike with him. And Jack Della also tried to get him down, but Islam is a whole other caliber, you know what I mean, if it comes to the ground fighting. So I think that's a completely different fight and very, very difficult to say what's going to happen. Although you probably know what Islam is going to try to do, but Carlos has to try to keep it standing, which is very difficult. But yeah, we'll see. Let's hope we see that fight in the future. Probably not. I think Islam fights Ian Gary next, probably. But maybe the winner of that fight, I would be good with that.
Where does Jack go from here? I mean, this is now like two fights in a row, but he's lost. And look, it's no shame to either man. He lost to Islam Makhachev. Almost everybody does that to Islam. And Carlos Prates is 7-1 to the UFC. So outside of Ian Gary, which he even said, "Hey, I need to make some changes." Damn, he made changes. Nobody beats Prates. So
Mhm.
how far does he fall? And what if you are UFC matchmaking? Like, where do you put Jack next? Because he needs, I'd say, probably like a softer touch.
Yeah, but this is pretty painful, of course. This is not just a little, how do you say that? A little loss. This is kind of horrible loss. And it's not because it's Pradas, but it's the way he lost to Pradas. It's like completely destroyed, pretty much. It's wow. It's just crazy how Pradas beat him. And they never saw it coming like that. It's a really bad loss for Jack. Yeah, you give him somebody. I would give him somebody like, well, in the top 15, but not high in the top 15. It depends on what the UFC thinks about him. Does the UFC still see him as a legit contender, or are they not going to try to build guys off of him? I still think he's a pretty legit contender, but it's a bad loss. You cannot go around it. It's just a bad loss. Definitely on her home turf.
I was going to say, how about Jack Della Maddalena versus Earl Smith?
I mean, it makes kind of sense now. I would normally say no, but this one kind of makes sense now. So I think Medic probably headlines the Serbia card that is upcoming. I don't know against who, but it kind of makes sense.
Meanwhile, Prates, you think of it, he is a chain smoking, Brazilian who stays up till sleeps 4 hours, he is a guy who prefers striking over grappling. You just look at it, it's like this doesn't make sense. But you see him, and at 6'1", and the way he moves, I mean, he is everything you probably tell a fighter probably don't do, and yet he still does it. And how, it makes sense of Marcel because I'm still trying to figure out. You tell a guy like you yourself, hey, live clean, no drugs, don't smoke, no edibles, and Products goes, nah, screw that. I'm having a pack of smokes, Virginia Slims, and goddamn, you're still going to keep on fighting at a high level.
Yeah, I think in the long term it's probably not good, but he's now still young, so he probably doesn't have the problems with it, But I think in the long term it's definitely not a good thing. But we'll see, For now it works for him, so who am I to judge here? Yeah, I mean he looked great. I can't say anything else. He looked great and much better than I expected, to be honest. I thought Prates, always thought Prates pretty decent and good, but this was world class what he showed earlier this morning. So yeah, all credits to that.
Speaking of world class, this was a world class destruction here as Quillin Salkilld knocking out Beneil Dariush in the first round. He's no longer a prospect. As they said, he is now a contender. And look, I get it. Beneil's been on a bit of a losing streak for a while now, but still getting obliterated. Quillin Salkilld to me looks like he is sort of the next big star from Australia.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this guy has only looked good so far in the UFC, and he got a big step up in Beneil Dariush. I think Dariush is kind of declining, but still, Dariush did well early in the fight, but Quillin got out of it and he was able to put him away. Also on home turf. Yeah, big win for him, I don't know. He called somebody out afterwards. I forgot the name who he called out. If you can fill me in.
I was not awake. I was still half asleep at times because this card's all the way at 4 a.m. in the morning East Coast. So there were times like, okay, I can come over. Oh, and he come. So I remember the fight. I just don't remember the call out because I was probably somewhat, half a daze. But who do you put him in with? Because again, forget about he has his own call out. You're UFC. You go, hey, let's
he called out Gamrot. He called out Gamrot. Let's do Gamrot. I'm good with that.
I like that, actually. I can't complain. Now the question is, where does Beneil Dariush go? Because, look, he's been one of those guys who has fought everybody and anybody. 23-8-1. Not one of the nicest people in and out of a cage, and yet it's getting uncomfortable now. Where this is his fourth, loss out of 5 fights, all of them by knockout in the first round. Mm-hmm. Does UFC give one more fight and go, this is your, quote unquote retirement fight?
Yeah, I like Beneil Dariush a lot, man. He's like, he's been a long time guy in the UFC, but also very friendly and nice guy, I think, but do I really want to see him back in the octagon? I'm not sure, but hey, if the UFC gives him one more, I'm all for it, but yeah, I mean, do I see him making any waves anymore in the division? Probably not. Gotta be honest here,
What do they give him? I mean, that's it. Because again, you can't give him a top 15 guy now because this is sort of like the end of it, and you don't want to just give him some like bomb. So what do they meet? Do they meet somewhere in the middle? Do they do maybe Jim Miller or Bobby Green or?
I think that makes sense more. You got like Bobby Green fighting as Jeremy Stevens next, and you got Jim Miller fighting Jared Gordon next. Maybe the winner of that fight, the winner of Jim Miller, Jared Gordon. Why not? I'd be good with that. Yeah.
How good is Quillin now? Is going to be the question. I mean, when you look at him, and I get it, UFC is looking at dollar signs, going, "Hey, this is the big next stud. This is the guy we're going to build everything around." Is he the next, dare I say, Alex Volkanovski, or is he close to a Jack Della Maddalena? Like, where do you see him in terms of this division and how far he can go?
It's difficult to say, man. I want to see him against a better grappler. I think Dariush did good early on, but the Quillin got out, and he destroyed him after that, But let's see him against a better grappler. Let's see how he does. That's why I think the Gamrot fight makes a lot of sense, because Gamrot is also going to try to grapple with him, and if you can beat Gamrot, you can go really far in the division. I feel like, only guy who was able to really beat Gamrot with the ground game was Charles Oliveira, So
this was a very competitive fight. Steve Erceg continues his winning ways. Um, this is tough because on one hand, Erceg did very well. On the other hand, it's sort of like he's in a no man's land, really. Like where it's good he won, but in the bantamweight division, like did it help him at all, or is he still just sort of stuck in a limbo?
yeah, I mean, pretty much stuck in a limbo, I would say, because I mean, do you give him a step up? I don't know. To be really honest, I mean, he got a couple of step ups. It wasn't great. The Osborne fight last time, he just got by. At this one, he actually looked better in this one. Besides the first round, the first round was for Elliott. Second and third round were clear for Erceg. If that Erceg showed up in the second or third round against these guys, he has a good chance. But if the Erceg in the first round shows up, then he has nothing to search in between the top 8 of the division, in my opinion. So it's a really difficult question.
Like I'm looking at bantamweight, and he's sort of outside of Joshua Van, who's the champion. You can't give him that. He's sort of, as I said, every time you lifted him up to the next level, whether it's Brandon Moreno, Alexander Pantoja, um, he's lost. So it's sort of all right. Well, I mean, do you do maybe him versus Lauren Kavanaugh next, or him versus I'll say Asu Ambayev if either of them win their next fights, or what would you prefer? I guess.
I probably would go with Steve Erceg against Amir Albasi. I think that makes sense. Albasi not on a good streak right now. Erceg finally back on track, with 2 wins. I think why not? Make that fight. Amir Albasi against Erceg. They haven't fought each other. They're both in the top 15. And I mean, Albasi really needs a win. Erceg would be great for him to get a third win in a row and maybe can look at the top 8 again then, or top 5, I mean. I would go with that one. Erceg against Albasi, co-main event of a fight night.
Meanwhile, for Tim Elliott, I give him a lot of credit. This is a guy who you look at, you don't realize he's been now fighting for 15 years. I mean, at age 39, we talked about, a couple weeks ago, guys like Jim Miller who've been doing well for a long time. We talked about even guys who had retired, who had hung around for a bit. 39 years old, fighting at bantamweight. I mean, god damn it, I'll give him credit. He did not roll over. He won the first round, and he's still a guy who can hang in this division. How the hell does he do it for a guy who he's cutting weight to make 125 pounds, and yet he still fights better than a lot of the younger guys?
Yeah, I thought it's just that old school dog. He's like the old veteran who is super gritty, always comes to fight, and it's not an easy fight for almost no one. You have these kind of guys in divisions. It's kind of comparable with a Davy Grant at bantamweight, I think. Who else you have in these divisions? You have a couple of guys, Cub Swanson in bantamweight before he went retired. You have a couple of these guys in these divisions who are like old school, very tough, and always give you a good fight. And Elliott is one of these guys. Always liked Tim Elliott, but yeah, I think that he is like, and I hate to use the word, and I probably disrespectful to Tim. He's a perfect gatekeeper for the UFC to the top 15. I think.
So this is I had a problem with this fight. One because look, Marwan Rihiki did everything he was supposed to do. He went out there, he destroyed his opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Why was this fight made? I mean, and I get it was a short notice fight, but Ollie Schmidt had no business being in there against Marwan Rihiki on short notice. I mean, this was sort of painful when you realize, yeah, this guy was brought into, and I get it. It was short notice. Jack Jenkins got injured, but still, if you're the UFC, should there be like, okay, if we can't find the opponent within a month timeout, then maybe we just push you back.
Listen, I knew about Jack Jenkins being out for 2 weeks, so the UFC knows that as well. Um, the thing is, like, I'm happy for Ollie Schmidt that he got signed. Of course, it's great for him. Should he been signed? Probably not. 4-2 record. That's a guy who, if he already got the chance, should get a chance. He should do a true contender series, in my opinion. Or the Ultimate Fighter. But and the UFC, and there is no excuse for the UFC. There were nobody else. There are a lot of other Australian guys with better records who would be more fitting to get the fight. Still, I'm happy for Ollie Schmidt. He got the call, but I got to be honest here. It was not competitive. Marwal Rahiki did exactly what he needed to do with a guy. Super short notice, 4-2 record, massive favorite. He finished him in the first round, and yeah, good for Rahiki. I think the UFC wanted to keep Rahiki on the card. There were not many options because in Australia, you also have to get a visa and that kind of stuff. But there were other Australian options, for example, So yeah, I don't know.
And I guess that's sort of my beef with the UFC. Like, I get it, you want to keep a kid on the card,
Mm-hmm.
but this didn't help anybody. I mean, for Rahiki, this basically, you could argue, probably had tougher competition in training camp than this. And for Schmidt, it was okay. Hey, welcome to UFC. You gotta get your brains beat in. Have fun. Like, I get, did they really need Rahiki on this Australian card, or could they have just moved into, like, I don't know, UFC 329 and said, hey, look, we'll give you a higher profile fight?
Yeah, I think they definitely could have moved, but they didn't want it to, so they didn't do it. But yeah, of course they could have moved them. But that's not what the UFC wanted, and that's why we got this fight. Yeah, I mean, what's to say?
So I guess we're doing Jenkins versus Rahiki again, or somebody get close to that, because again, it's usually go well. We look great, we talked about him improving, but again, there was nothing to take out of his fight other than Rahiki basically just took care of business, and as you said, well, he didn't get injured. So that's the good part. He wanted, he didn't get injured. So
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with rebooking. I'm all for it.
now this is what I love, and I know, Marcel. Sometimes you and I don't see eye to eye on heavyweights. You're trying to openly get rid of that division. I understand. I won't hold it against you, but even you have to admit that Brendo Perrick versus Shamil Gaziev was just action-packed fun. This was what we love about heavyweights. Two big, meaty men with hammocks just blasting each other away. Did you have fun? Were you happy about this fight?
What an absolute horrible fight, man. No, I'm just kidding, man. I'm just busting your balls. No, I mean this was a fun fight. Shamil crazy chin. I think a lot of people were already been done after a couple of minutes, probably, but he kept coming. The thing with Brando Paris is just if he fights like this against the better guys in the division, I think he gets starched. Because he basically fights with no defense. But man, it was a fucking fun fight. It got fight of the night, and rightly so. You know. Yeah, I enjoyed this fight. I think many people did. Listen, if heavyweight was always like this, we wouldn't have a problem. But this is like one of these rare moments, just like the whole kid against Blades fight. One of these rare moments when heavyweight is actually fun. Because the fight before this one was kind of horrible. But I mean, this one was fun. I enjoyed it, and a great win for Perisic. I wonder what next for him. They can go many ways with him. I think he hasn't fought anybody pretty much in the division. Anybody from with big value. I would say Shamil is the best guy he fought so far, and it was a fun fight. So yeah, looking forward what's next for him.
I know you. I want to touch on something you said earlier. Like, hey,
Yeah.
like against better heavyweights, you might have trouble. But
Hmm.
look, Gaziev as you said, has a chin. I mean, he went, rounds with Yarzino, Ruz, and Struik. So it's not like this is one of those guys that, is an easy knockout. So again, should we give Brando credit? Like, and go, hey, could you see him as a heavyweight contender? Because, damn, he has some scary power.
To be fair, he is now a heavyweight contender. So yeah, I mean, I definitely see him as a heavyweight contender.
I mean,
Like I said,
serious heavyweight contender. Like, you're looking, going, hey. Could be the world heavyweight champion in a year or two.
That's too early to say, man. I'm not going to say that. That's too early for me to say. It's possible, I think, because that division is shallow as fuck. But I mean, it's definitely possible. But I don't going to say that right now because A, I'm going to put a huge pressure on somebody, and B, I look like a fucking idiot if he loses 3 times in a row from now on, which I don't think will happen. But you never know with my luck.
All right, so you know the UFC, they always love to get the next big thing ready. So who do you give Brando Perrick next? I mean, again, he beat Shamil Gaziev, so do you do maybe Marcin Tybura? Do you do the winner of Johnny Walker versus Ante Legia? Like, who do you have in mind for Brando Perrick?
So we all know Mick Maynard was pulling a little Mick under the table during this fight. Um, yeah, I mean, pretty sure. Um, Tibura is fighting someone else already, I've heard, behind the scenes. Um, who should I give him? That's a good question, actually. Maybe the loser of Volkov against Waldo Cortez next week. The loser of that fight I would give him. I think the winner should be in line for a title fight next, but I would give him the loser of that fight. Or maybe Curtis Blades. Good option, I think. Curtis Blades, when he is how do you say, when he's clear of injury and he can fight again, why not? Curtis Blades fought one prospect last time. He lost to the prospect to Hokit. Fight another prospect. Let's see if Curtis Blades is still able to win against the guys he should be able to win against.
All right. Meanwhile, Shamil Gaziev, it was a fight of a night bonus for both men. So the UFC probably won't get rid of Gaziev. Do you put him up with like a Mick Parkin next, or I'll say the loser of Deleja versus Spivak, or
I mean,
the loser of Walker versus Spivak?
Something like that, something like that for sure. I think Parkin makes sense. Why not? Give him Parkin. Put it in fucking Serbia. Put it in Abu Dhabi. I'm good with that. Give him Parkin. Yeah, I think that's a good matchup. Why not?
This fight, yes, I know, it was a bit sloppy. At times it was fun. At times it was depressing, and I could hear you type in your 1,000-page, strong word to Dana White and Robert Kennedy Jr. going, please, please get rid of the heavyweights. They're horrible. So Louis Sutherland got it. Got the win over Tui Taibasa, and I love Tui. And I don't know at this point now, if you're a UFC, how do you bring him back? I know he said, hey, he plans to, keep fighting and everything, but how the hell do you bring him back?
Nah, enough is enough, man. Enough is enough. It's like 7 losses in a row. And it's also now against not really good competition. I mean, the Teixeira loss was already pretty bad. I felt like, and he got 30-26 against Louis Sutherland. I know I got point deducted, but it was so bad, from Tai Tuivasa again. And man, enough is enough. Listen. Everybody likes Tai Tuivasa. Nobody hates the guy, but you have to deliver in your fights. And he just doesn't deliver anymore in his fights. Yeah, it was not a great fight. Let's put it that way. The best thing about this fight was my pick that I picked Sutherland, so I beat some guys in some pools. But besides that, no. I mean, I was happy for Sutherland. He got his first win in the UFC. He pretty much got matched up with Tai Tuivasa 2 weeks ago, and the UFC obviously hoped that Tai Tuivasa was able to get a win in front of his home crowd, which again didn't work out. They also tried it against Teixeira. Yeah, I just think Tai is done. We gotta be honest. But Tai would be, for example, a great addition to bare knuckle or something. That would be fun, for example, because that's where Tai shines probably.
Well, I thought the perfect job, Tai. Your co-host on your podcast. We get the Dutchman and the Aussie who loves his shoeies. It'll sell itself, Marcel. You can talk about, hey, we need to get rid of the heavyweights. Ty can, bring you back onto his side. Maybe you guys can bond over some, beers or shoey. He looks like a fun guy to talk to. You look like somebody who needs a fun guy as a co-host. So this is perfect for your own podcast.
Yeah, I have a good co-host, man. So I wouldn't change him, for anybody. I'm happy with my co-host, but I mean, yeah, it's a fun proposition, but Ty never going to do that. But
He could join in with you and Adam. This way when Adam picks on you, you can have Tui as your personal enforcer. Like, hey, you stick him on Adam. Like, Tui, take care of Adam here for me. Pick it on me. Now let's get to the undercard because this was a fun little card. And yes, some things happened even you and I didn't see. First, Junior Tafa got a knockout win. In other news, hell is frozen over. Sorry about that. That's with me, but you were even surprised that he got the win. Does that say more about Junior Tafa or Kevin Christian?
Nah, I wasn't surprised he got to win. I picked him to win this fight. I'm not high on Junior Tafa at all, but I'm even less higher on Kevin Christian, what I've seen so far. I was surprised he got signed off Dana White's Contender Series because I didn't think it was a good performance. Then he fought Bill Alicana and got fucking starched. And then I knew that when he fought Tafa, there's a good possibility Tafa to starches him as well, because this is stylistically a good matchup for Tafa. So, yeah, I wasn't surprised at all, to be really honest. I don't think Tafa will but this was a good matchup for him, and the UFC knew that, and that's why they gave it to him.
In other, prelim cards, we saw Jacob Malkoun defeat Gerald Mercer by unanimous decision. Malkoun improves to 10-3. Mercer drops to 37-22. I was rooting for Gerald to win, and I was hoping he would, but this turned out to be what you and I feared, that he wasn't able to use his wrestling, get his submissions, and again, is this the end of Gerald or GM3?
Yeah, probably is. I always like Gerald, really nice guy, to be honest. Also, yeah, but I felt that before the fight already, and Gerald coming in 4 pounds too heavy, that's also not typical. I think Gerald does, So, but I was kind of disappointed in Malkoun's performance. I didn't think he fought very good, I think he can do much better. And he struggled with Gerald early on, which I didn't expect him. He won two rounds to one, I think, deservedly. But wasn't a good fight for Malkoun. I think he kind of lost some stock with this fight, man. But he still won. And for Gerald, it's almost like the end of the road, I think, And I think that's rightfully to say after he's losing his last couple of fights. Didn't look great in those fights. But again, if somehow Gerald listens, I love Gerald. He's a great dude, and I hope for him he maybe can get another fight. But if it's the right thing, I'm probably not, And I would be surprised if the UFC does. Maybe if he has one more fight on his contract, I have no idea. Maybe they let him fight out his contract, but I'd be surprised.
Meanwhile, in another middleweight action, we saw a Cameron Roston improving to now 3-0 in the UFC, defeating Robert Bryzek by unanimous decision. Fun little fight, Again, it's not the prettiest fight, but Roston did enough to win, and this is a guy who hopefully the UFC can go, hey, maybe he can be, take a next step up and see if he can be a contender in a very muddled middleweight division.
Yeah, it was an okay fight, but it wasn't anything special, I felt like. Good one for Roston, but not much to say about the fight, to be really honest.
We had one of the few finishes of the undercard. Wes Schultz defeating Ben Johnson by guillotine choke, 150 in the third round. Again, this is one of those fights you want to talk about where it's like, okay, this should be able to separate guys who belong in UFC who don't belong. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I think it's clear Ben Johnston just kind of does not belong in the UFC.
To be really honest, I think both guys don't belong in the UFC. So Ben Johnson pretty much got signed by the UFC, and they gave him a guy. I have nothing against Wes Schultz, but they gave him a guy was like of the bottom tier of the division, pretty much bottom tier of the division, you know. And he wasn't able to put him away. He's gonna fucking grapple with him while he's a striker, you know. While Schultz is a grappler, he's gonna fucking grapple with him. What the hell, you know? And then he gets called in the third round. I mean, yeah, just stupid in my opinion. And listen, I'm a couch cunt, like I always say. Who am I to say? But just stupid, you know. Very bad in my opinion. But wasn't a good fight. Was a good finish, but the fight itself, no, not really, in my opinion. But that's my opinion. Like I said for the fourth time.
Colby Thickenese defeated Jacob Morales by unanimous, Vince Morales by unanimous decision. We mentioned before, it was screamed Dana White privilege, and well, Dana White privilege continued a nice little win streak here. Again, this is one of those fights where it's like, okay, look, Morales is a tough little guy, but not a UFC fighter. I think this is now his fourth straight loss. And I get, look, he's only lost a guy. Every guy he's fought, Taylor Lepius, Elijah Smith, Raul Rojas Jr., now Colby Thickenese. They're not bad, but this should be, the end, unfortunately, for Morales. And we have to find out what we can find out about Colby Thickenese.
I completely disagree with you on this one. I think Vince Morales should have won round 2 and round 3, in my opinion. I think he got hosed. But it was expected. It was a close second round, and it was like they're probably going to score it for the home fighter, and they did. Plus, Morales is super competitive with all these guys. He's losing, I know. He's losing to Elijah Smith. He lost to Thickness. Another one, I can Rose Jr. But he's competitive with these guys, you know. And to be really honest, I thought he won against Thickness, so I don't agree with cutting him, you know, even when he's 0-4 in his last war. I think he's a good fighter. Like I said, competitive with pretty decent guys, you know. I give him definitely one more because I pretty in my mind this is a win for him.
All right,
just
so you thought there was some home cooking by the Australian judges. Was this a robbery then, or was this one decision?
I don't want to say.
I really don't disagree.
Listen, I don't want to say a robbery because, like I said, it's a close second round, you know. But the thing is, like, it's pretty typical when they fight in Australia and you have the Australian against the American and you got a close second round that all three judges scored a round for the Australian, you know. So, listen, I don't say it should be a split decision because that's stupid, you know. But if it would have been a split decision, it would have been like, yeah, okay, maybe they at least one guy didn't look from the Australian perspective, you know. But now all three did pretty much. So, yeah, I thought he won 2 and 3. He definitely won 3, clearly. First round was for Thickness. Second round was kind of 50-50. So I'm okay with the decision, but I think it could have gone other way. So there's always like perspective is really important always, you know, if you look at the fights. You know, you can be 0-4, but if you're competitive in 4 fights, if you could have even won one of the 4 or 2 of the 4 maybe, then you shouldn't have been cut, in my opinion.
Well, if you thought that fight was controversial, I hate to hear what you think about the captain, John McAuliffe, defeating Themba Gorimbo by split decision here. I can imagine you going, robbery. Gorimbino should have won that fight. So sell to me here. Who should have won? Was Mitchell the right person? Sorry, McAuliffe the right person, or was it Gorimbino should have won that fight?
I think it was a close fight, and this one also could have gone either way, in my opinion, you know. The thing is, like with this one, I think Mikhailov got the third round, and I kind of thought it was either 2-0 for Themba going into third round, or it was 1-1, you know. And in my opinion, both scorecards are possible, you know. I think you could give it to Mikhailov 1 round and 1 round to Themba. You could also go 2-0 Themba, you know. So the third round was pretty clear. That was for Mikhailov. So it was either 29-28 for Mikhailov because of the third round, or 29-28 for Themba because of the first 2 rounds. So, yeah, I think it's an okay decision. I have no problem with it, you know. I picked Themba before on forehand for this fight. I picked the underdog in this one. But I can see giving it to Mikhailov. I have no problem with it. I think it was close, you know. And, yeah, I'm good with it.
And finally, unfortunately, the Street Buddha got submitted. That's right. Dom Marfan got submitted by Cody Steele by heel hook 356 in the first round. I had high hopes on the street boot. I was hoping that he could pull this off, but man, it's not good when you in your basically your quote UFC debut, you get submitted by heel hook.
Yeah, man, this street Buddha wasn't on fire. Yeah, um, that was a pretty quick win for Cody Steele after like he had a tough debut in the UFC, got wrong, so he got fight of the night for that one. But yeah, he lost that fight, and now he's fighting Don Marfan. Um, yeah, I mean, good win for Cody Steele, and I expected also more from the Street Buddha, but yeah, Steele did what he had to do, and he got his first win in the UFC, which is good. And Don Marfan still has to wait for his first win in the UFC. I know he got the win last time and the road fight, but the road fights aren't documented as UFC fights. So this was officially his debut. But yeah, good win for Steele. I mean, I kind of underestimated Steele on this spot, I think, and I maybe a little bit overestimated Don Marfan.
So this seems like a tale of two cards where the undercard we're like, not that good. And then once we got to Brando Perisic, it was just pants off, dance off. We had knockouts, we had fun fights. So overall, and I know, but you were probably a bit grumpy because you're like, God damn it. It's in the morning. Why can't I go to bed? Why is this card still just rolling along? Like, how do you score UFC Perth? Was it good? Was it or was it, all right, it was nice. Now I'm going to go and take a nap.
So, main card, I give an 8. Prelims, I give a 4. Combine the two, it's a 6.
Well, let's focus on some good news. The good news for Charles Oliveira is you're getting an 8-fight contract. That's right. The UFC has re-signed DuBronx, Charles Oliveira, to an 8-fight deal. We talked about it with Tim Elliott. God, I hate these Australian cards. It puts me in sleep and different story. Oliveira is a guy who, 36 years old, he's still elite, and you wonder, could he win a world title at age 40? I mean, is this a guy you look and go, crazier things have happened?
I'm going to be honest with you, Chris. I think if you're at that age, you never should sign a 6 or 8-fight contract. And I'll tell you why. Because Charles Oliveira is a legend. We agree on that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So he probably makes a good amount of money. But the thing is, like, if you're at a 6 or 8-fight contract, you cannot negotiate a deal for your next fight, So because it's already like there. So this guy is still trying to fight for a world title. So he should have space to negotiate, in my opinion. If you are an established guy, in my opinion, the legend of the game, Also, Pereira did it, signed for 8 fights. Never do that, man, because what if you're not able to go to those 6 or 8 fights? You're maybe just able to do like 3 or 4 more, Sign for 2 fights if you're an established guy, if you make a lot of money, because after those 2 fights, maybe you lose, maybe you lose and you're like, I cannot go anymore. And cannot do it anymore in the UFC, Let's go to something else. Maybe MVP comes up, and it's like, hey, we give you oodles of money, you know what I mean? And you can go there. But now you're 8 fights in the UFC, or 6. I don't know anymore what you said, say 6 or 8. But you have 8 fights in the UFC. You, after 2 or 3 fights, you're maybe like already like an older guy. You probably not. Then you are stuck with that contract. You know what I mean? And you have to fight. You can retire. You can say, after 3 fights, you're like, listen, guys, this was it for me. I retire. And then you get an offer from another promotion or from another whatever, and you want to do that. But the UFC is like, hey, we have that 8-fight deal. You're not going to go anywhere but in the UFC. So you pretty much limit yourself, And I understand with younger fighters, with more up-and-comers, they're like, okay, give me these fucking 6 or 8 fights. But with these older guys established, the UFC makes money off you. Don't sign 6 or 8-fight contracts, in my opinion. That's what I would say, But that's just me. But listen, man, I hope we see Charles many more times because he's fucking entertaining. and he will be in the UFC Hall of Fame when he retires. But yeah, let's see what's next for him. I think maybe a rematch with Arman would be interesting because Arman is only doing side quests now. But yeah, we'll see.
Well, I was gonna say maybe you sign the contract because they're gonna give him a title fight. You get the winner of, dare I say, Ilya Taporia versus Justin Gaethje. Because as you mentioned before, Arman seems to be like just on his side quests and getting in trouble nearly every time he does these side quests, starting fights, running people off the basically off the stage. I mean, you can tell the UFC, I think, is just losing its mind with Arman going, yeah, we can't put you in. You can't behave. So could this be sort of, the caveat? Like, all right, I'll sign an 85 contract. I get the winner of UFC White House.
Yeah, that's possible, of course. You know, you never know. It's definitely possible. I mean, with Arman, I just want to see the guy fight. You know, and listen, people are like, oh, RAF, RAF. I mean, it's fun, but I don't give a shit, to be honest. I want to see these guys fight in the UFC. I want to see the best guy fight for the world title. You know what I mean? So yeah, these side quests is cute, but I don't really care. You know.
Then talk to your friend. He's your friend. If you have to go up and give a dope slap, you give a dope slap. Say, Arman, please behave. No more starting fights. No more driving people off the RAF stage. Don't punch fans. Just please behave for 12 months. Behave like everybody else does in the world. Behave.
Yeah, who am I to say?
He's your friend, not mine. So you can tell Arman, the UFC's not giving you a title shot. Keep us behaving. But Arn probably looks and goes, well, look at the UFC 328. And the main event, Khamzat Chimaev versus Sean Strickland, Joshua Van versus Taira. So let's start with the main event. Arman probably sits there and goes, wait a minute, I misbehaved and I don't get a title shot. Sean Strickland misbehaves and he's getting put in the main event and a title shot. How is this fair?
Yeah, people want to see the fight. That's pretty much how it is, you know. I think people are more hyped about the lead up to the fight than the fight itself. I feel like, you know. Yeah, it's interesting. We're gonna see. I mean, listen, would I think it would be fun if Sean wins? Yeah, absolutely. You know, that would be like crazy, like when he beat Adesanya. But I think Khamzat will be able to win here. You know, Khamzat is going to wrestle heavy, probably going to really put some real nasty ground and pound together. I think to be really honest, I think the lead up to the fight will be more violent than the fight itself. To be really honest, and probably more competitive.
Well, I was going to say we might see a brawl before the brawl. I mean, you can see Strickland just going, yeah, this guy's a scumbag. Chimaev, he's making basically derogatory comments, insinuating that Chimaev is a bully who's afraid of him, and I'm surprised there hasn't been like an altercation yet. So what should we expect at the this week's press conferences? No way. Will there be shenanigans? Will Strickland getting into a shove match? Will there be extra security because Dana's going, oh my god, these two heads might get into it.
Bro, there will be massive amount of security. I tell you this right now. They already are not in the same hotel. They put both camps in different hotels. They never did that before. So there will be a massive amount of security. I'm really wondering how they're going to do the presser on Thursday, because, man, it's going to be crazy, I think, And the thing is, like, people are like, yeah, they're just hyping it up. I feel like it's different, I mean, maybe Sean is trying to hype it up, but she might take this shit personal, So it's going to be crazy. I think it's going to be crazy. We'll see. Sean already said, like, if they're going to trap me, I have my gun with me. So he's crazy enough to use it. So, yeah, this shit's going to be crazy, man. I mean, I wonder what the UFC is going to do with the presser. That's really interesting to me on Thursday. Yeah, they're going to be there's going to be some stuff to do next week, our upcoming week. But looking forward to it, man.
John Strickland win? I guess that's the question. Like, I'm trying to picture it because deep down, I think Dana would love it because then he could do the rematch. Then it'd be like money that could be made. Hell, he could probably even like sell like live, seats for just a press conference to other people who want to see a early fight than a second fight. And Dana loves trash talkers, but I'm just trying to. But again, I look at this and call me crazy, Marcel. Just this feels like Strickland just has no chance of beating Chimaev if Chimaev doesn't just lose his mind.
Yeah, we saw Chimaev last time against DDP, and everybody was like, "Does the guy have a gas tank?" Because he has been gassing before, but he showed he had it, And, that was the only thing with Chimaev I was worried about was his gas tank, pretty much. But his gas tank seemed to be good. I mean, I'd be shocked if Strickland wins, but I was also shocked when Strickland beat Adesanya back then. So you never know. There's always a possibility. But yeah, I mean, I think the majority of the people will go with Chimaev in this fight. Not even that I want Chimaev to win or whatever. I don't really mind who wins. But I just don't see Strickland winning here, to be really honest. I would be surprised. Would be a massive upset if he does.
So this fight's going to be in Jersey of all places. So the other question we have to ask is, will there be a brawl in the stands? Because you figure something, it's all it's going to take in Jersey. They love fighting in Jersey. So could we see like Bo Galata 2 where all of a sudden we get brawls in the stands?
I don't think Tony Soprano would allow that, so no, probably not. But no, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's I mean, let's just watch it, see what happens. The UFC put this fight together, particularly because there was so much bad blood, I think, and the lead up. There will be a lot of people will view this thing, because this is, to be really honest, this is like the first really hyped fight of 2020, 2026, in my opinion. So people are really looking forward to this fight. It's going to be crazy, I think, but let's see. I mean, a Sean Strickland fight week is always crazy, and now he's fighting an actually crazy, really good fighter. So it's going to be good.
Meanwhile, the two flyweights are like, yeah, we just respect each other, so we're not doing this. But this should be a good fight in terms of you have Joshua Van, who is the champion, despite the fact a lot of people say, well, he was lucky to become champion. Takes on Tatsuro Taira, who there's a lot of people who think he will probably beat Van. So is this probably one of the best fights they can make pound for pound in terms of two guys who are very evenly matched?
This is the fight that makes the most sense of all the title fights they've made so far this year. So, yeah, I like the fight a lot. Joshua Van is a great fighter. Did he got a little bit of luck against Pantoja? Yes. Do I really mind he got the luck? No, it's not his fault. Taira got a great win over Moreno, got kind of controlled in the first round, but when he was out of that control time, he pretty much destroyed Moreno. This is an interesting fight, man. Van has a clear striking advantage. Taira has a clear grappling advantage. It's going to be really good, this fight. This is a fight I'm really looking forward to. I think it's the best fight on the card. If it comes to matchup-wise. Listen, if I have to pick here, I'm picking Taira because I'm really impressed by him. Despite him not having the great striking that Van has, I think the ground game is much better. So I'm looking forward to it.
If you're Van, how much do you try to basically keep this fight sort of, as you said, side to side? Don't let Taira get sort of a clear lane for a takedown. Like, how much do you make this almost? I don't want to say attract me, but basically just on your feet 24/7, bouncing around all over the place.
Yeah, I got to keep him at distance or I have to probably knock him out, one of the two. But the thing is, it's going to be really difficult because I don't know if I would think Taira has kind of a reach advantage. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like that's true. Call me out if I'm wrong right away. But yeah, and this is going to be a tough fight for Van. If he can keep it standing, he has a good chance to win. But the takedown threat is there, and when Taira has you on the ground, Taira is really good, It's not it goes too far to say it's a typical striker versus grappler fight because I think Taira has striking and Van has grappling, but it's pretty typical as like Van is really good in the striking department and Taira is really good in the grappling department. So it's gonna be a really fun fight. Looking forward to it. I was really bummed because that fight fell off last month, but at least we get it now and. Yeah, great co-main event, I feel like.
So here's, I guess, the the X Factor. Joshua Van has defeated on short notice Brandon Royval.
Yeah.
Natsu Taira, Taira lost to Brandon Royval by split decision. If you're Joshua Van, how much do you go back and watch that fight and go, all right, this is what Royval did. This is what I can use against Taira? Or is Royval and Joshua Van just two very different fighters?
Yeah, it's a completely different fight because if you look at Royval against Van, it was a lot of striking kind of thing, you know. And with Taira Royval, it was a lot of grappling in between as well, you know. It's just like two complete different fighters. So MMA never works and will also not work here, in my opinion. It's just a completely different fight. Of course, you can take some stuff from out of a fight if you look at from what he did against his opponent, you know. But Royval is not Van and Van is not Royval, you know what I mean? So it's like it's like really difficult to compare, I feel like. And like Taira, how Taira fought against Royval, Royval had also a striking advantage, but Taira mixed in the grappling, you know. But I think Royval is a better grappler than Van is, you know what I mean? So that's why I don't think you can really compare it to with each other. But maybe I'm wrong. You never know, you know.
And probably I'd say the most competitive match, you have Sean Brady versus Joaquin Buckley at welterweight. Both men coming off of tough losses. Joaquin Buckley dropped a decision loss to Kamaru Usman. Sean Brady, last time we saw him out there, he lost by knockout to Michael Morales in the first round. This feels like both men have a lot to prove in terms of can they still stay relevant in the top 10. Who do you like in this, and how do you see this fight playing out between two sort of wrestler strikers?
Sean Brady better grapple fucks his ass off in this fight, you know, because Sean Brady is much better on the ground, in my opinion, than Buckley is. Buckley is good, you know, but not at the elite level of grappling as Brady is. That said, Buckley's striking is better than Brady's striking is. So, in my opinion, Buckley has to keep it standing, you know, and he has a chance to knock Brady out. There's definitely an opportunity there, you know, because Buckley has that knockout power. But for Brady, grapple fuck him like 50 minutes, I would say, you know, and get the win. Don't take any risks. Buckley can lose 14 minutes of the fight and can knock you out in minute 15, you know. Don't take any risk against it. This is a typical kind of guy that, like, he's a good fighter, but he's the typical kind of guy that can lose a complete fight and then out of nowhere knocks you out, you know. So Brady has to make sure that doesn't happen to him. But yeah, I mean, listen, I'm picking Brady in this one because I think he keeps it smart, but you never know.
Probably one of the hottest fighters in terms of momentum. Waldo Cortez Acosta meets Alexander Volkov at heavyweight. This feels like the UFC really wants WCA to take it to the next step, where top 5, maybe title eliminator. Is this sort of a perfect matchup for him against Volkov, a guy who sometimes can get hit pretty good, and Cortez Acosta has been landing some, napalm bombs within the first round of his last 3 fights.
It's crazy how I heard that the UFC wasn't really fond of Waldo Cortez Acosta, and then like a year later, they probably hope he does well. I think Cortez Acosta is pretty decent. Bro, I'm not picking against Volkov in this spot, you know. Volkov has shown so far that he is elite, in my opinion, in the division. And he got host against Gam because I think he won that fight, you know. But that's why they couldn't give Volkov. I think Volkov deserved a title shot, but they couldn't give it to him because he lost that fight. Against Almeida was a close fight. Was a little bit lucky with the decision, I felt like, but I didn't really mind. I really think, listen, this is going to be a fun fight as long as it lasts for a heavyweight fight. But I got to pick Volkov, man. I'm not picking. Listen, Cortez Acosta, good fighter, but I cannot disrespect Volkov by picking against him in this fight.
And in the battle of, let's say, characters and brawlers, King Green takes on Jeremy Stephens in a lightweight scrap. 2 men who age is just a number. I'm trying. This might rival Chimaev and Strickland in terms of, like, okay, the presser might be just as good as the fight itself.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one because it's a fun fight, you know. But what can you expect from this fight? That's a difficult thing. Green has looked pretty decent as of lately. Stephens, who got one fight back in the UFC, was okay, wasn't great. Was against Mason Jones, was a fun fight, but that was more because Mason Jones made him get that fight because Mason Jones in the third round kept it safe and got the win. Man, I'm picking King Green here. King Green looked good last time. I like the guy a lot. I think he's a really good fighter, and yeah, looking forward to see that fight.
Preliminary card, even on the it features, let's say, a group of fighters who veterans, prospects, and possibly contenders. Will start welterweight. Joel Alvarez takes on Yaroslav Amosov, and this feels like a sneaky damn good fight in terms of Amosov is a guy that we said, hey, he the best fighter outside the UFC now takes on Joel Alvarez, who also is a guy you look at and go, it's pretty damn good. Who do you like in this fight? And is this going to be sort of a prove it for Amosov in terms of, all right, let's see if you really are good enough to be a top 5 contender?
So the funny thing is, I think Alvarez opened up as a pretty big favorite, but with the bookies, because the bookies probably were like, there's another Bellator bum or something. I don't know, but Alvarez pretty good, man. This is going to be a fun fight, I think. As long as it lasts. Alvarez was really good with the grappling, as we know. Joel Alvarez pretty all around. I would think. But man, I think Amosov will be pretty grappling heavy in this fight. So I expect Amosov to get the win here. But I mean, you never know. Alvarez is pretty decent as well. But if you ask me to put my money on one of the two, I would say Amosov probably by a lot of grappling and getting it done by decision probably.
In a fight which I know you're sitting there going, who do I pick? I can't. I like both men. Jim Miller makes his return at home and takes on Jared Gordon, a battle of two guys who nobody has a bad thing to say about either man. So I'm going to put you on the spot, Marcel. Who wins this fight, and who are you rooting for in this fight?
Oh man, you're gonna be mad as fuck on me, But listen, I don't root for anybody in this fight because I really like both guys. Jim Miller's an OG, as we all know, a much respectable guy. And I'm really good with Jared. He's a really good dude, really friendly. Like him as well as a fighter. Got in an accident last time before his last fight against Rafa Garcia and lost. Really surprising to me but Garcia showed that he's really good, so maybe not that surprising anymore in hindsight. I think Gordon wins the fight, man. I think he wins by decision. But I think it will be competitive as long as it lasts, or will last 15 minutes. But I think it will be competitive, but I'm going for Gordon in this one. And I don't mind. Listen, if Jim Miller wins, all glory to him. I like both guys, like I said, but I have to choose somebody, and then I pick Gordon to win here. I think he can beat Jim by decision.
Ateba Gautier takes on Osman Diaz, and after the last fight, could we see maybe a more action style from Ateba in terms of being more controlled pace, or do we see him try to go out there and blast Diaz in the first round?
Yeah, so we have always a joke in the community that Ozzy Diaz kind of looks like Alex Behunin, so we always call Alex Behunin Ozzy Diaz. Yeah, I think Ateba knocks him out in the first round, to be really honest. The thing was, Puliayev also got a lot of strikes to his head, but he had a good chin. I was able to overcome the first round and then lost by decision. But I don't think Ozzy Diaz will be able to overcome the first round. So I'm picking Ateba by finish, knockout first round, this one.
We have another lightweight fight between a wrestler and a striker submission artist. It's Mateus Rebecki taking on Grant Dawson. This feels like if it goes to the ground, Dawson should win because he's going to use his wrestling. If Rebecki keeps striking, he could knock out Dawson pretty within the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, because we know how Dawson fights. Dawson is mostly like a guy who likes to control a lot on the ground, and Rebecki is the guy who is in some crazy fight of the nights. Yeah, the UFC did make this fight on purpose, of course, because Dawson, listen, I respect Dawson, but he's not really like a fan-friendly fighter, It's like really, it's kind of kind of boring, let's be honest, you know. And Rebecca is never in a boring fight, so they hope that Rebecca can get something loose in Dawson that it's not that boring anymore. Um, yeah, I think Dawson will try to grapple against Rebecca, but will he be successful? That's the main question. I'm not sure if he will be successful, to be honest, but there's definitely a possibility he will be. I think like the bitch pick for me would be Dawson in this one because I think that he would be able to get at least 2 of the 3 rounds to win. But man, I wouldn't be surprised if Rabeski is able to even finish him or to get a close win. But um, I think the bitch pick is Dawson, and with the bitch pick, I mean that it's a safe pick. But I'm not. I haven't made my mind up yet completely about this one. I also can maybe go with Rebecca still.
Roman Kopylov hopes to break his 2-fight losing streak, taking on Marco Tulio, who hopes to break his losing streak against last time he took on Christian Leroy Duncan. All right, who has more left in the tank, Tulio or Kopylov?
Yeah, I haven't been really impressed by Kopylov as of lately. Also, not the beginning of his UFC career. Then he had a pretty good run, and then he looked bad again. And Tulio lost to Christian Leroy Duncan. I mean, that's possible. The way he lost is not really good. Uh, I mean, the Tulio has kind of lost kind of momentum with him losing and with Norma Dumont losing. But I think Tulio should be able to get a win here. But man, maybe Kopylov. I think it probably goes to decision this one, and it will be close. But wouldn't put my money on this one because both are really inconsistent.
In the fight, which I'm surprised on the early prelims, but that is the UFC. Pat Sabatini takes on the Jaguar, William Gomez, in a featherweight scrap. This feels like it should be on either the televised prelim card or the main prelim card or even on the main card because these are 2 guys who you look at, it's like they are pretty, damn good. Why the hell are they all in the early prelim?
I mean, William Gomez is really good, but he's also really fucking boring, you know? If you look at Pat Sabatini, I think he's also pretty good. I don't think he's boring. Um, yeah, I mean, this is like a really difficult fight to pick again. You know, you got a guy in the Pat Sabatini who's really decent on the ground. You got William Gomez, who has also pretty okay ground game, but it's not his real thing, in my opinion. His striking is a little bit better. It's the real difficult fight to pick, man. I don't see a finish in this one. I think it goes to decision, and maybe Gomez weaseled another split decision or close unanimous decision out of the fire. But I also think Sabatini is kind of like a possibility to win here. I think it will be super close. So I also don't see a finish in this one. This goes to decision. Who's going to win? I don't know, to be really honest. It's kind of close. I'm leaning William Gomez, but man, like I said, just like the Rabeski against Dawson fight, my pick might change at the end of the week, you know.
Well, this feels like a layup and some Dana White privilege. We've got the Hunter returns. Bison Gurov Suskayev takes on a Game Jordan Santos in a middleweight scrap. You said before last time you were not really impressed with the Hunter. Is this a fight where the UFC's hoping, okay, he's going to impress us. He's going to come out there and take care of business in the first round or so?
Of course they hope that, you know, that's what they hope because Jordan Santos, he lost his debut against Diaz. Then he got the win over, what's his name again, Danny Barlow, you know, which was kind of unexpected for a lot of people. And I always find it's Susurkayev. Susurkayev hasn't impressed me so far besides his Dana White Contender Series. So in the UFC, he got the wins. He got also 2 of 3 finishes in the fights, but he didn't really impress me for some reason because I feel like the guy's beatable if he fights better opposition. Jordan Santos is not that better opposition, so I think he's able to win the fight. I'm going not for a finish, but I'm going with the decision. I think Susurkayev wins the decision, a clear decision that is, 30-27.
And finally, in the bout which loser might be gone from the UFC, we got Clayton Carpenter versus the calcifier, Jose Ochoa. So who wins this fight? And is this one of those fights where, as you said, why are these guys in the UFC? Why did they get signed in the first place?
I still think it's a missed opportunity for Clayton Carpenter to not get the nickname like Guida. So like Clayton Guida Carpenter or something. That would have been fun. Jose Ochoa. I mean, Ochoa had a great win over Durden, and then he kind of shit the bed against Almabayev when I thought that he would do well. He didn't do well. So he's pretty, I think he's a pretty good fighter, but he's still also pretty young. If you look at Carpenter, also kind of young. Decent, not overly impressed, but decent. Also can go either way. I might go with Ochoa in this one if the Ochoa shows up that fought Durden, But if the Ochoa that shows up that fought Almabayev, then Carpenter definitely has a chance to get the win here, I think, So, yeah, it will be another interesting fight. 125. 125 is a fun division in my opinion. I think that.
All right, before we let you go, so give me a bold pick. Chimaev Strickland. What round does it end? And, well, you've already said Chimaev's going to win. And how bad is this going to be in terms of a stoppage?
I go TKO ground and pound round number 4. Yeah.
Wow. Well, there you have it, degenerate bookies. Marcel's giving you the pick, so you can now go and call your bookies. Once again, always love having on the show. I give you the man who he was up all the way from almost 24 hours straight watching UFC fights. You got to acknowledge him. I give you Marcel Dorff. So, Marcel, once again, where can fans check you out at? Where is the Tapology website, the podcast, X, probably a Rumble channel? I know you're probably working on some threads for some UFC conspiracy theories. Where can fans check out your work?
Just Big Marcel 24 on Twitter and Instagram, I may also break a podcast with Adam Martin, previews and recaps of the UFC cards. We'll do one tomorrow. And Chris, as always, thank you for having me. It's always fun talking to you. And till next time, and everybody enjoy the fights.
Marcel Dorff, ladies and gentlemen, once again, always on a pleasure. Have you on the show? We come back. We got a lot more going on here. Only on It's Last Call. Last Call of the Alcohol. Only on the Last Call Podcast.com.